Hello, my name is Singletary, and today I'll be presenting my thesis on why America should reinstate rare earth mining and business practices. Rare earth elements are vital for today's technological industry and are growing more vital by the day, yet America has allowed China to have a near-complete monopoly over all rare earth mining and manufacturing. Rare earth elements are used in permanent magnets, which are then applied to most modern-day electronics, including wind turbines, electric car batteries, and missiles. Even though China's produced lots of rare earth elements to be used in the industry today, demand is growing and will continue to grow. According to Guillaume Petron, author of the Rare Metals War, it is imperative that America reestablish its own rare earth mining and manufacturing within its own borders. Until around the late 90s, America had its own premier magnet producing facility owned by a company named Magnequench. In this facility, one could expect to find magnets used for bombs and missiles, and any designs that would explain how to apply magnets to bombs and missiles. In 1995, Magnequench was purchased by an investment firm named Sexton Group. At first to the American public, this seemed like a deal done between two American parties. However, it was revealed that Sexton Group was owned by multiple Chinese businesses, all with the backing of the Chinese government. China intended to use Sexton Group as a middleman to purchase Magnequench and move it to China at a later date. The Committee of Foreign Investment noticed this as a potential issue and tried to mitigate damage by reaching a deal with the Chinese, that all activities within Magnequench would stay within the United States for the next 10 years. China initially honored this deal. However, they created their own duplicate facility using the designs of the original Magnequench purchase. Soon, the 225 American employees who specialized in permanent magnet production were laid off, and the headquarters of Magnequench moved to China in the early 2000s. The irony is, America still owns the original Magnequench facility today. However, now it owns and operates as Coco's Canine Cabana, a doggy daycare facility. Relevant terms are needed to be discussed before we go into the main arguments posed in my paper. First, when I mention China's control over the rare earth industry, I'm referring to Chinese ownership over 90% or more of all businesses related to rare earth mining and manufacturing. Secondly, rare earth elements are not necessarily rare. Rare earth elements come abundantly in the Earth's crust. However, they come in small packets, which makes them difficult to mine. When I mention rare earth refining and application facilities in my paper, I'm referring to facilities where raw rare earth elements are refined and then applied to base level products like magnets. Lastly, all rare earth elements will now appear on the screen, none of which have been subject to large-scale mining or manufacturing within the United States. Rare earth elements are extremely valuable and necessary for technology today, and will only grow more necessary as long as America continues to improve its technology. According to the American Geosciences Institute, rare earth elements are used as components in high-technology devices. Large quantities of rare earth elements are also used in green technology and defense. Rare earth elements are used in a variety of ways around the world. Metals like cerium are used to refine petroleum. Metals like gadolinium are used in nuclear reactors, and metals like erbium are used to move digital information long distances. However, the most critical use of all these rare earth elements is found in their unique magnetic capabilities. Since China has had such a large monopoly over rare earth elements for so long, it would be extremely difficult and expensive for America to even begin mining for rare earth elements. Since this is the case, some people may argue that since China already has this monopoly over rare earth elements and is willing to sell rare earth elements for relatively cheap, America should allow this monopoly to improve foreign relations and to save taxpayer dollars. However, history has revealed China to be an unreliable trade partner. Intellectual property theft is thought to cost Americans around $300 billion per year, and China is thought to be 80% responsible over all intellectual property theft. According to the BBC, Chinese businesses encourage intellectual property theft and practice it at a large scale. History like this shows that if America allows itself the comfort of receiving critical materials like rare earth elements as imports from a country like China, then China will abuse its relationship with the US, knowing we cannot get these materials from anywhere else. Even though the process will be expensive and difficult, America must pay back the cost of waiting too long to separate from China's economy. Politicians have failed to realize the severity of our lack of rare earth elements, but today the consequences are obvious. Some people may argue that even if China has this monopoly over rare earth elements, China would never completely restrict all rare earth element exports. However, China already has recently restricted all rare earth element exports. In 2010, during fishing disputes between China and Japan, China abruptly ended all trade discussion and decided to quietly restrict all rare earth element exports to Japan. Since Japan is a small island and is known for its technological prowess, politicians in Japan began to panic. China also has recently restricted 7 different rare earth elements in response to America's tariffs placed upon it. People may ask why a global trade organization has not tried to stop China's unfair business practices. However, the truth is there has already been an effort to stop China's rare earth restrictions. The World Trade Organization is a global forum designed for the nations to come together to solve trade disputes. In 2012, America actually filed a complaint against China in the World Trade Organization, citing that 2 of its separate rare earth restrictions had violated previously done deals in the World Trade Organization. The World Trade Organization actually sided with America on this case, and China agreed to roll back some of its rare earth restrictions. In retrospect, this makes it seem like the World Trade Organization rules over the nations with an iron fist. However, this is not the case. The World Trade Organization cannot force any nation to actively participate in trade, and truly is only as powerful as the nations let it be. And due to recent events, China and America have found themselves in stalemate when it comes to discussions on rare earth elements within the World Trade Organization. This is why America must be able to separate themselves from China's rare earth industry and be able to produce their own rare earth elements. The best course of action from separating from China's rare earth industry is a little complicated. While it is clear that America must be able to produce its own rare earth elements, there are a few issues that must be addressed. First, America must place emphasis on creating rare earth refining and application facilities over rare earth mines. These refining and application facilities would guarantee that all raw rare earth product would be able to stay in the United States instead of having the need to send the raw rare earth elements to China to be refined and applied there, which would negate any reason to have raw rare earth elements in the first place. Our raw rare earth element refining and application facilities also would open up America to the option of receiving raw rare earth elements from other countries who are also wanting to separate from China's monopoly over rare earth elements. The second issue that must be addressed is that America must provide financial benefit to private companies willing to participate in the rare earth industry. Since China has had such a large monopoly over rare earth elements for so long, there is almost no promise of profit for any private company willing to participate in the rare earth industry. This is why America must subsidize these private companies, setting a guaranteed price for rare earth elements and providing these companies with tax breaks so that they may be able to stay afloat while they try to produce a commercial rare earth product. The last issue that must be addressed is that America must encourage students to enroll in courses involved in the rare earth industry. Since China is truly the only nation involved with rare earth mining and manufacturing, all the experts for rare earth mining and manufacturing live in China. Since this is the case, America must be able to produce its own experts and encourage students to enroll in courses involved with the rare earth industry. As previously, one of the most highlighted points of Donald Trump's presidency is his issuing of tariffs, and America has specifically targeted China in its issuing of tariffs. After its first initial round of tariffs, America and China have started a tariff war, constantly issuing counter tariffs to their new economic rival. Recently, Donald Trump's issuing of tariffs has been found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. And while this doesn't necessarily mean America will stop sending tariffs to China, this breathes new concern into the rare earth industry. America and China are both in a race. Both countries work together begrudgingly because they need each other. America needs China because of its rare earth industry, and China needs America because of its American consumers. Whoever learns to separate from the other in this race will win the race. If America learns to separate from China's rare earth industry, America will control the Chinese market. And if China learns to separate from the need of the American consumer, China will control American technology. This is why America must put time and money into creating their own rare earth industry so it may be able to compete with China and win this race. As previously stated, rare earth elements are too important of a material for America to receive them as imports from a country like China. Some people may argue that if these elements are so important, why hasn't America continued to mine them? And there are a few reasons why. The first reason is that rare earth mining is environmentally destructive. There are two main ways to mine rare earth elements: surface and in situ leaching. Surface leaching involves removing the topsoil from a general area and placing it into a leaching pond. Think of it as a vat full of chemicals. These chemicals separate the topsoil and the raw rare earth elements, leaving only the raw rare earth elements remaining. The second method, in situ leaching, involves placing PVC pipes into the ground, running chemicals through the PVC pipes, making the ground its own leaching pond. Both methods leave a mountain of chemical waste for a theoretical mining company to clean up, which would cost time and money. China is able to dodge cleaning costs by not cleaning at all, dumping most of the chemical waste into the Yellow River in Baogang, China. Residents living near the Yellow River in Baogang, China, are known to grow gray hair and lose most of their teeth by their early 30s. If America was to participate in rare earth mining, America would have to adhere to environmental law, spending taxpayer dollars to produce a water cleaning program, which would solve most of the issues involved with rare earth mining. The second reason America has not continued mining is that green technology companies do not want Americans to know how rare earth elements are acquired. The green technology prides itself on its efficiency and safety for the environment. However, key components of items like solar panels, wind turbines, and batteries need rare earth elements to work. Since rare earth elements are acquired using methods like surface and in situ leaching, green technology would have to admit it wasn't as green as it once said. If America was to participate in rare earth mining, the more likely the general public would know the dangers of surface and in situ leaching, which would affect all green technology profits. The last reason why America has not continued to mine rare earth elements is because America cannot rely on mining alone, but must also pair it with refining and application technology. These projects would have been easily started and continued today if America would have continued mining and started these projects along with continuing to mine. However, America has stopped mining completely and has never started these projects in the first place. These issues do exist, and is why America has found itself considerably behind compared to China's rare earth industry. Opponents of increasing rare earth mining might argue that taking action in the rare earth industry would cause tensions with China to rise and make the prospect of war more likely. Another version of this argument is that China could take retaliatory trade positions against the US and try to squeeze it out of the market. However, it is helpful to admit that China and America are already fierce competitors in the world stage. Since this is the case, America cannot allow its primary competitor control over critical materials, and opponents of increasing rare earth mining and manufacturing cannot allow America to lose precious time by refusing to admit that America and China's relationship is almost unsalvageable. Opponents may also argue that rare earth related projects are simply too expensive for America to take on, and since these projects are too expensive, America would have no choice but to rely on China's rare earth industry. And to better understand the cost, it is helpful to look at ongoing inactive rare earth projects in the United States. There is only one inactive mine for rare earth elements in the United States. This mine, located in Mountain Pass, California, continued today by MP Materials, lists its initial investment price at $1 billion, $700 million coming from MP Materials itself, and $300 million coming from the Department of War. MP Materials also owns the only rare earth application refining facility in the U.S., located in Fort Worth, Texas. This facility lists its initial investment price at $700 million. This creates two assumed numbers, $1 billion for every rare earth mine and $700 million for every rare earth application refining facility. However, the only unknown number is how many of these facilities America would need to separate from China. As previously stated, America must emphasize creating rare earth refining and application facilities over mines, so we can ignore the $1 billion per mine for now. America is thought to need around 26,000 tons of permanent magnets a year. And MP Materials refining and application facility is thought to be able to produce 3,000 tons of permanent magnets a year. This would mean America would need to make 8 new refining and application facilities, coming at the cost of $5.6 billion. The Department of War's budget for 2026 is listed at $1.01 trillion, which would mean that rare earth refining and application facilities would cost less than 1% of the entire Department of War's budget. Obviously, there would be a need to spend more money than just on rare earth refining and application facilities. However, if the issues addressed in my paper are actually taken care of, America stands a truly good chance to be able to compete against China in the rare earth industry. America's lack of rare earth elements is truly an issue, as it threatens our national security, technology, and economy. America must be able to rely on itself for critical materials, and that's why America must be able to compete in the rare earth industry. Thank you. All right. I would now like to take questions from the judges.
Good job, Sam. I'm just curious, how did you stumble on this topic? Because you were well on this topic before I found out you were doing this, and then you got me interested just talking about it in class one day. So how did this come about?
Okay, so I was struggling on how to decide what my thesis would be. And I was convinced, I was trying to force a thesis topic involved with eels because I really like eels.
Okay. I'm glad.
That wasn't working. So my dad came up to me one day and he said, Sam, you should look into this rare earth thing. They're really interesting and they're involved with a bunch of stuff. And so that's exactly what my dad sounds like, by the way. And that's how I got interested. And then it opened up this rabbit hole, and I really have just enjoyed researching it all year. I've really, even though I've done a lot of research, I truly only have touched the surface of it because you're limited in your information you can gather from the internet on a topic like this because nations want to be so private about rare earth elements. But I've really fallen in love with this topic, and all thanks given to my dad for giving this topic to me.
Thank goodness he got you off of the eels.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, whatever, guys. It would have been awesome.
So why rare earth minerals? Can we come up with another alternative for magnets that would be just as strong? In the news I've been hearing about possibly an iron oxide that has been altered. Right. What's the problem with using something else?
So I addressed this in my paper. Unfortunately, I didn't think it would flow well into my presentation. So there are substitutes for rare earth elements, the most prominent being iron oxide. However, these substitutes, most of them have the same key issue, and it's that they lose their magnetism after in high temperature environments. So if rare earth elements are important for defense, specifically sonar, missiles, and in those cases, rare earth elements magnets would need to be able to withstand high temperatures. So the only reason this is important is because we need them to withstand high temperatures, and these substitutes have failed to do that so far. And that's why I think it's important that we still focus on the rare earth industry instead of creating a substitute.
Thank you. Good.
You're welcome.
Sam, hypothetically, let's say you're the spokesperson for a rare earth mining company coming to my small town.
Mm-hmm.
We're at a town hall meeting. I'm holding a picture of gray-haired, toothless, 30-year-old people.
Yes.
How are you going to convince me it's a good idea for you to come to my town?
Okay. That's a great question. The reason why I feel like rare earth refining and application facilities should be over mines, not just because it would open up commerce for other countries to use us as an application and refining country and to separate from China, but also because it's more digestible for America to have to say like, oh, hey, I'm making an application refining facility over like, hey, this stuff will get into your water, probably. This chemical waste has a chance to get into your water. So I think that if I was a mining company in your scenario, I would just talk about the importance. These are critical materials. We use this in defense. It's important for our nation's safety, I would say. And so even though it would be potentially environmentally destructive, we have to start eventually,
How would you convince me the nation's safety is more important than mine?
I would say that you are part of the nation, and your safety extends to the nation as well. So I think no one would like our missiles to be produced in another country, and then we use the missiles being produced from that country, and we would rely on that country for missiles. And I would even say that rare earth elements are used in more than just missiles. And so I would think that if it wasn't called rare earth elements and it wasn't just like a rock, I think people would find it much more worrisome that we produce rare earth elements in a different country and then have to have them sent here.
That's very interesting. However, I think after that meeting, I might start a petition for my state to secede.
Fair enough. Oh, another interesting point that kind of goes along with that is that America actually has a law that critical materials that are produced in weapons cannot be produced outside of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
However, they've made one exception in the early 2000s for rare earth elements because we weren't even possibly able to produce rare earth elements, and they were so important that we had to make an exception for them. So I think that shows like how important this stuff is, and that we've just lacked initiative and anything to produce rare earth elements.
Sam, are there any other U.S.-friendly trade partners that have even a small foothold that we could start diverting attention to in a way of isolating China?
Yes. When you say that, do you mean like partners we could take on to compete in the rare earth industry, or?
Well, like, is there a country that even has a fledgling rare earth industry that we could help invest in that would, in a way that would help us to take away some, basically some business from China?
Yes. So there is, most prominently is Australia, Brazil, and Greenland. They have large rare earth mines.
Greenland, you say?
Yes. We can dive into that in a second. However, the key issue with all of these things is that there's mines outside of China, but there is truly no rare earth refining and application outside of China. So even if we partnered with these countries, we would still have to send raw rare earth elements to China to be refined and applied there. So until America establishes rare earth refining and application, we would still come across the same key issues of having to send these raw rare earth elements back to China.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question now that you brought it up. These refining factories, are they as dangerous as the in situ mining?
Okay, great. I did not talk about the dangers of refining. They are not as dangerous, specifically meaning just because it's more of a contained environment, especially considering China is using methods like in situ leaching, where they are pouring these chemicals just into the ground. Especially the fact that it doesn't have a way to get into water. It's not affected any. It's not really close to the ground, really. You know, is why they are safer. Obviously, there's still risk getting the chemical waste out of the facilities, but in methods like surface and in situ leaching, the chemicals are pretty much laying in the ground. You know, and the danger of that is they can get into waterways, they get into rivers, they can get into people's drinking water, and they're cancer-induced, and that's why it's so dangerous mining, more so than refining.
So you should probably lobby Mrs. Cheney for a refining factory
Yes,
in her small
yes,
town instead
yes.
of an in situ mining situation,
Yes,
right?
100%.
Okay.
Mr. Davis.
Great job, Sam. I'm really curious about the sale of MagnaQuench.
Yes.
I guess this may require a lot of research that you haven't done on this, so that's
Well,
one
let's
piece
see.
of it. But like, how does a sale like a company like that is involved in national security happen without the federal government being very aware? Yes.
That's a really great question. So the sale of MagnaQuench did not happen in a moment. It happened over years, because when you're purchasing a company like that, it obviously takes a while. Agreements have to be met. So the first half of, I'd say, like the process of selling MagnaQuench was involved under the presidency of George W. Bush. And he was dealing with wars, obviously, around the time period. So he wasn't truly as worried about the sale of MagnaQuench as he was other projects. He talks about, and people around Bush said that he wanted to take action, but taking action in a time at something like war would show that he wasn't as interested in the war, which would obviously cause a little bit of uprising from the people. The second half comes to the presidency of Bill Clinton, and he was dealing with scandals involving, I think, Monica Lewinsky around the times of the end of the sale. So I would say that both presidents during the time were busy worrying about other stuff.
Your answers are really interesting and very well put. I appreciate that. Hey, so do you know about the concept of eminent domain.
No, sir. If you would.
So the federal government has the right to take over anything it wants if it's for national interest. And so it seems odd that they wouldn't exercise something like that even after the sale of Magna Quench, because this is such a big deal, because this puts us at a major, penalized reality.
Right. Yeah, it does. And there is a lot of conspiracy around why America would allow a purchase of that importance of national security. I don't know how to answer that completely without diving into being a conspiracy theorist.
Sure,
But
fair enough.
obviously there was conflicting interests, and they didn't measure the importance of this industry as well as they should have, I think would be the safest way
Thank
to answer
you.
that. You're welcome.
Thanks for informing us on a really interesting topic. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like first of all, just the irony of the fact that a country known for intellectual property theft basically just duplicated a mine that they bought like over there. That's just really kind of funny. But so you talk about production, refining facilities. I mean, have you thought much about, like, if the priority is that you're suggesting is refining facilities over mining operations? I mean, it'd be great to have a refining facility, but if we have no raw material to refine, like, how does that work?
Okay. Just having refining and application facilities would be such a great leap for a few reasons. One, because China is the only other nation that has refining and application. And just presenting them with a rival will open up ways for other countries to send raw earth elements. And then we can take raw rare earth elements as deals. And mentioning Greenland, if we actually had theoretically taken over Greenland, which I'm not saying is a good thing, we wouldn't have been able to do anything with the raw rare earth elements we would have mined there, except if we had refining and application. So it's not that it's doing anything like that it's just a big plus because it's the first step. It's the first step to having purified rare earth elements.
No, that's a good point. That's a really good point. The other thing is some of the numbers you're throwing out about the cost to make these things. I mean, they're big numbers, but they don't seem that big. I mean, $700 million for a refining facility. I mean, we're talking about that same amount of money to build a few miles of interstate. Right. It seems like that would be. So it seems like maybe someone's doing the cost-benefit analysis of saying, like, maybe there's something else going on. I mean, are there bigger issues here besides just cost that are prohibiting? I mean, I know the environmental issues and that sort of stuff. Are there other big issues that are prohibiting us from going this direction?
Just that people have, I think, too hardcore aligned themselves with green technology. And since that is the case, they have maybe found themselves in the way that they need to protect green technology. And there's, just as I've said, there's issues that you can cite, like it's too expensive, it's environmentally destructive. And then if you say that, people are like, oh, of course, and then let's just not do it. But the truth is, it's so necessary that even though those issues do exist, and it's easy to argue against because of those issues, you still have to have rare earth elements. And I think part of the nation's bet is that we can receive these rare earth elements from somewhere. We'll just get them from somewhere since we have the money to pay for it. I think that is an unnecessary gamble, and just invites us to spend stupid amounts of money on rare earth elements that we could get just from our own nation eventually.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Okay. If there are no more questions, I think I'm done.